the referee problem, and they are demanding answers and they are demanding changes.
Finally, a player that's worth paying the money for. Caitlin Clark comes along.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening.
3 WNBA officials have finally been suspended, and many fans are wondering why it took this long for action to be taken.
Grabbing, physically grabbing her, applying pressure, pushing her. Look at
After seeing Caitlin Clark take repeated hard hits and questionable treatment on the court for months, while officials appeared to ignore what was happening, the league has finally decided to step in and take action.
Look at this. Look at this.
So, what was the moment that finally pushed things over the edge? It wasn't a single mistake or one controversial call. It was the result of a growing pattern, a combination of poor officiating, accusations of unfair treatment, and increasing pressure from the business side that eventually forced the WNBA to respond.
We're attacking the rim, and the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So
Let's begin with the Liberty versus Fever matchup, because that game brought all the complaints about officiating into the spotlight. After a troubling stretch that included a massive free throw imbalance and a crucial missed call involving Caitlin Clark in the closing moments, frustration reached a boiling point. With just 2.9 seconds remaining and Indiana trailing by 2, Clark had the opportunity to make a play that could have tied the game and forced overtime. Instead, the officials delivered a textbook example of how a critical moment should not be handled.
It's beautifully done by Caitlin Clark.
Natasha Cloud appeared to make repeated contact with Caitlin Clark, and the replays clearly showed the physicality involved. The plays were so noticeable that even casual viewers watching at home were questioning why there was no call. Yet the officials stayed silent. No whistle, no explanation, and no foul was given.
Holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time.
The replay footage painted a troubling picture. It appeared that Cloud was making repeated physical contact with Clark, grabbing, bumping, and applying pressure in a way that went far beyond normal basketball intensity. Many fans felt this wasn't just ordinary contact. They believed the league's biggest star was being targeted, and it was happening right in front of everyone. Clark immediately turned toward the officials, visibly frustrated and calling for a foul when no whistle came. Her teammates also stepped in to challenge the decision, but the officials remained silent. There was no explanation, no correction, and no response. However, the final sequence wasn't the only controversial part of the game. The officiating crew missed several major calls during the closing possessions. On one play, Dana Bonner appeared to take heavy contact while attempting an open layup, affecting the shot, yet no foul was called. Then, on the other end, Lexi Hull was called for what many considered a questionable foul on Sabrina Ionescu despite appearing to be in a legal defensive stance. Those free throws from Ionescu ultimately became the deciding points of the game, points that many critics argued should never have been awarded in the first place.
I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy.
This is where Coach Stephanie White became part of the conversation. To her credit, she didn't hide her frustration after the game. She entered the post-game press conference visibly upset and openly addressed what she believed was a serious officiating issue. White pointed to a massive minus 31 free throw differential over recent games. Just think about that. Indiana had attempted 31 fewer free throws than its opponents during that stretch. She described the situation as extremely concerning, saying the way her team had been treated was unacceptable. She emphasized that the Fever were consistently attacking the basket and putting pressure on the defense, yet they weren't receiving the same level of respect from officials. In her view, the lack of calls had become impossible to ignore.
Look, there's a system to making sure that
White wasn't finished there. She went beyond criticizing individual calls and questioned the league's entire process for handling officiating complaints. She pointed out that there is a system in place for teams to submit concerns and communicate their frustrations, but admitted that she often questions whether that system actually delivers results. Her comments suggested that teams may feel ignored when they raise concerns about officiating. While many coaches choose to stay silent because they don't want to risk fines or punishment, Why was willing to speak openly? Because she felt it was her responsibility to stand up for her players and challenge a process she believed wasn't working.
It is a new injury. This is not the injury that she was dealing with during pre-season.
Now, let's get into the injury that created a major ripple effect across the league. On May 26, 2025, the Indiana Fever revealed that Caitlin Clark would be sidelined for at least 2 weeks because of a left quadricep strain. The team announced that her recovery timeline could extend beyond that initial estimate, with the possibility of her absence lasting several weeks or even longer depending on how she responded to treatment.
That Caitlin Clark will be sidelined for at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain.
This injury brought an end to Caitlin Clark's remarkable streak of durability. She had not missed a single game since 2017, nearly 8 straight years of consistently being available every time her team took the court. Many critics believe that streak was broken because the league failed to do enough to protect one of its biggest stars. What makes this situation even more frustrating is that Clark had reportedly been dealing with the issue for weeks, possibly even dating back to the preseason, while continuing to play through the discomfort.
There is literally footage of her putting heat packs on her leg.
New footage surfaced showing Caitlin Clark using heating pads on her quad during games, raising more questions about how long she had been dealing with the injury. Fans in attendance had already noticed signs of discomfort, mentioning that she appeared uneasy on the bench and was using heat treatments and compression on her leg. The warning signs seemed visible, but many felt they were overlooked until the situation started affecting the league's biggest business asset. Soft tissue injuries can be unpredictable, and recovery doesn't always follow a set schedule. What was expected to be a short absence could potentially extend to several weeks, or even longer depending on how her body responds.
People are noting that a grade 1 quad...
The footage from the Atlanta Dream matchup became one of the most heavily discussed examples. It appeared to show repeated physical contact against Caitlin Clark, with defenders making plays that many viewers felt went beyond normal basketball defense. Fans argued that the grabbing, pushing, and constant pressure looked less like ordinary competition and more like an attempt to wear down one of the league's biggest stars. They believed this pattern continued game after game, while officials failed to consistently intervene. Instead of stopping the excessive contact with timely foul calls, critics felt the referees allowed the physicality to continue until Clark's body eventually reached its limit and forced her to step away from the court.
The commissioner's the worst commissioner in sports. She is horrible. She wants rivalries, this WWE style.
Let's look at the numbers, because statistics tell a story that can't be ignored. In 2024, 24 WNBA broadcasts surpassed the 1 million viewer mark, and the reason was clear. 21 of those games featured Caitlin Clark. Matchups involving Clark averaged around 1.19 million viewers, while games without her drew roughly 394,000 viewers on average. That isn't a small gap. It represents a massive difference in audience interest and attention. The contrast highlights the impact one player has had on the league's visibility, separating games that attract major national attention from those that struggle to generate the same level of engagement.
The rapid growth of the WNBA has impacted officiating. 2024 was a year of unprecedented growth in viewership in the WNBA.
The suspension of 3 WNBA referees has sparked a much bigger conversation about officiating, player safety, and the league's priorities. Critics argue that the issue goes beyond a few bad calls, pointing to a larger system where officials follow standards set by league decision-makers. With Caitlin Clark's injury raising concerns about the physical treatment she faced, many believe the league was forced to act only after the financial impact became impossible to ignore. Clark's absence could have a major effect on ratings, attendance, and revenue, highlighting just how important she has become to the WNBA's growth. The league now faces a critical question. Will these suspensions lead to real changes in officiating and player protection, or will they simply serve as a temporary response to growing pressure?